Hi there. Welcome to Upper Room Ministries Sunday School. Presently, we are transitioning from Upper Room Ministries Sunday School to Tongues of Fire Sunday School. Yes, we are entering into a new season, brand new ministry. And I'm so glad you're here to join us for what lies ahead. But in the meantime, we have the book of Job to complete. We completed chapter 28 last time, so now we shall begin in chapter 29. Job is continuing his defense, that he is innocent, he is righteous, and that he doesn't deserve what's happened to him. He continues, verse 1 saying, Job further continued his discourse and said, Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and when his light I walked through darkness. Just as I was in the days of my prime, when the friendly counsel of God was over my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were around me, when my steps were bathed with cream, and the rock poured out rivers of oil for me. So he's reminiscing. You notice in verse 2 he says, that I were as in months past. That should give you an idea of how long he's been in this reality, present-day reality. And he talks about, as in the days when God watched over me. Now, God watched over me then, but clearly he's not now. That's more or less what I'm getting from him right at this moment. Continuing in verse 7, when I went out to the gate by the city, when I took my seat in the open square, the young men saw me and hid, and the aged arose and stood. The princes refrained from talking and put their hand on their mouth. The voice of nobles was hushed, and their tongues stuck to the roof of their mouth. When the ear heard, then it blessed me. And when the eye saw, then it approved me. That just shows you how he was once reverenced amongst the people of the city. He was a man of high position and stature. Everybody respected him, young and old. Verse 12. Because I delivered the poor who cried out, the fatherless, and the one who had no helper. The blessing of a perishing man came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind, and I was feet to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and I searched out the case that I did not know. I broke the fangs of the wicked and plucked the victim from his teeth. So he's going into just what a great guy he was and all he did for everybody. Yes. He's doing a good job of justifying himself, at least in his own eyes. Verse 18, Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and multiply my days as the sand. My root is spread out to the waters, and the dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is fresh within me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. Men listened to me and waited, and kept silence for my counsel. After my words they did not speak again, and my speech settled on them as dew. They waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the spring rain. If I mocked at them, they did not believe it, and the light of my countenance they did not cast down. I chose the way for them and sat as chief. So I dwelt as a king in the army, as one who comforts mourners. Now he was the man way back when. Yeah. Very lofty, high opinion of himself he had. Chapter 30. Now he's talking about the present day. They mock at me, men younger than I, whose fathers I disdained to put with the dogs of my flock. So young men of lower stature than him now mock him. He has lost all the respect that he once had. Indeed, what profit is the strength of their hands to me? Their vigor has perished. They are gaunt from want and famine, fleeing late into the wilderness, desolate and waste. Who pluck mallow by the bushes and broom tree roots for their food? They were driven out from among men. They shouted at them as a thief. They had to live in the clefts of the valleys, in the caves of the earth and the rocks. Among bushes they brayed, under the nettles they nestled. They were sons of fools, yes, sons of vile men. They were scourged from the land. Now clearly he has a very low opinion of these mockers. Oh yes, they're just calling them out as total losers. Yes, apparently he's just trying to get across how humiliating it is to be mocked by these people. Yeah. How the mighty fall. Pride goes before the fall. And, when I hear Job talk like this, maybe there is some truth to what he's saying, but I can't help but say this guy is arrogant. Having such a high opinion of himself and a low opinion of so many others. He's setting himself up for something bad here. You know that. Verse 9. And now I am their taunting song. Yes, I am their byword. They abhorred me. They keep far from me. They do not hesitate to spit in my face, because he has loosed my bowstring and afflicted me. They have cast off restraint before me. At my right hand the rabbi arises. They push away my feet, and they raise against me their ways of destruction. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. They have no helper. They come as broad breakers. Under the ruinous storm they roll along. Terrors are turned upon me. They pursue my honor as the wind, and my prosperity has passed like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out because of my plight. The days of affliction take hold of me. My bones are pierced in me at night, and gnawing pains take to rest. By great force my garment is disfigured. It binds me about as the collar of my coat. He has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry out to you, God, but you do not answer me. I stand up and you regard me, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand you oppose me. You lift me up to the wind and cause me to ride upon it. You spoil my success. For I know that you will bring me to death, and to the house appointed for all living. Well, he's really calling God out here, isn't he? Really calling him out. Verse 24. Surely he would not stretch out his hand against a heap of ruins, if they cry out when he destroys it. Have I not wept for him who is in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for the poor? But when I looked for good, evil came to me. And I waited for light, then came darkness. My heart is in turmoil and cannot rest. Days of affliction confront me. I go about mourning, but not in the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry out for help. I am the brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin grows black and falls from me. My bones burn with fever. My harp is turned to mourning, and my flute the voice of those who weep. Yeah. Let's go back here to 25. He says, have I not wept for him who is in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for the poor? He's just more or less saying, I don't deserve this. Look at what I've done. Yeah. Well, you know something? Too often we say, well, I've done this and this and this. Why is this happening to me? Well, I would question the motives of someone who would say such a thing, because it's like they're saying, because I've done this, I deserve better treatment. Look, it's great to do good things. We're supposed to do good things, but we're supposed to do them for the right reasons, just because they're good. Not because we think we'll get something in return because we do it. I can't help but thinking, that's the attitude Job's been doing. I do this, I look after the poor, I grieve for the poor, weep for those who are in trouble. So I'm entitled for better treatment. When the reality is, nobody deserves, good treatment. Good treatment is an act of mercy, an act of kindness. Yeah. It's arrogant to proclaim that we deserve it. Yeah. 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a young woman? For what is the allotment of God from above, and the inheritance of the Almighty from on high? Is it not destruction for the wicked, and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does he not see my ways, and count all my steps? And again, he's saying, I've been good. I've been a good person. Verse 5. If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed on honest scales, that God may know my integrity. As if he doesn't know. If my step has turned from the way, or my heart walked after my eyes, or if any spot adheres to my hands, then let me sow and another eat. Yes, let my harvest be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down over her. For that would be wickedness. Yes, it would be iniquity of deserving judgment. For that would be a fire that consumes to destruction, and would root out all my increase. If I have despised the cause of my male and female servant, when they complain against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he punishes, how will I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make then? Did not the same one fashion us in the womb? If I have kept the poor from their desire, or caused the eyes of the widow to fall, or eaten my morsel up by myself, so that the fatherless could not eat of it. But from my youth I reared him as a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or any poor man without covering, if his heart has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, when I saw I had help in the gate, then let my arm fall from my shoulder. Let my arm be torn from the socket. For destruction from God is a terror to me, and because of his magnificence I cannot endure. So he's continuing with, I guess he's making vows right here. If I've done such and such, then curse me, punish me. This leads me to believe that he hasn't done those things. So again, this is justification of his own righteousness. I mean, it's, I suppose it's understandable, why he feels this way. Yeah, it's very understandable, how unfair this is. But even so, he's coming, he seems to be speaking from a fairly prideful heart. I can't help but think that. Right. 24. If I have made gold my hope, or said to find gold, you are my confidence. If I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, and because my hand had gained much, come on. If I have observed the sun when it shines, or the moon moving in brightness, so that my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, this also would be iniquity, deserving of judgment. For I would have denied who is God above. Now, if you're curious about where he says, my mouth has kissed my hand, that's referring to an ancient custom of kissing the hand as a prelude to a superstitious and idolatrous act of throwing a kiss to the heavenly body. So he's talking about idolatry here, observing the sun or the moon and its brightness. Back then there were sun gods and moon gods in pagan religions. So basically he's saying, if I've mimicked the pagans in their worship, then yes, I deserve iniquity. I deserve judgment, because that is iniquity. 29. If I have rejoiced at the destruction of him who hated me, or lifted myself up when evil found him, indeed I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for a curse on his soul. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been satisfied with his meat? But no sojourner had to lodge in the street, for I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude, and dreaded the contempt of families, so that I kept silence, and did not go out of the door. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my mark. Oh, that the Almighty would answer me, that my prosecutor had written a book. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder and bind it on me like a crown. I would declare to him the number of my steps. Like a prince I would approach him. If my land cries out against me and its furrows weep together, if I have eaten its fruit without money, or caused its owners to lose their lives, then let thistles grow instead of wheat, and weeds instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. He's done talking. Yep. He is really gone all out, to justify his goodness, his righteousness, and how unworthy he is of this suffering. Well, and again, it's understandable, but compare it to when Jesus was being crucified on the cross. He was a holy and righteous man. I mean, he prayed over the sick, and they got healed. He cared for the poor as well. I mean, he committed no sin, and yet he was punished as a common sinner. And yet he never complained. He never opened his mouth except to say, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Now, huge, huge contrast. And being like Jesus is being like Job as opposed to being like Jesus as opposed to being like Job. Yeah, that's something we have to be aware of. And really, it's simply not possible to be like Jesus without God inside of us, without the Holy Spirit inside of us. I mean, Job, he was a fleshly man. This was prior to the Holy Spirit actually entering us. So, I guess what I'm saying is that we at the same time shouldn't be too hard on Job also, even though God may not like his attitude. It's not for us to really criticize either. Judgmental. Perhaps that's the better word. Okay. Now we come to chapter 32. We have the arrival of a man called Elihu. I don't know how long he's just been observing Job and his three friends sounding off with all the speeches. I don't know how many speeches he's listened to, but now he decides to speak up. So, chapter 32. So these three men ceased answering Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the family of Ram, was aroused against Job. His wrath was aroused because he justified himself rather than God. Also against his three friends, his wrath was aroused because they had found no answer and yet condemned Job. Now, because they were years older than he, Elihu waited to speak to Job. Okay. Elihu is a young man who's showing respect to his elders here. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, his wrath was aroused. So, the three friends, they've decided, they've pretty much given up. They got nothing more to say to Job, even though Job has gone on this long speech justifying himself as opposed to God. So Elihu is angry at Job for all that he's done to justify himself over God, and he's also angry at the three friends because they had nothing more to say to him. Apparently they weren't angry enough to give a response to this. So now Elihu is going to step forward and give one. All right. Verse 6. So Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are very old. Therefore I was afraid, and dared not declare my opinion to you. I said age should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom, but there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding. Great men are not always wise, nor do the aged always understand justice. So he's saying, I've been respectful, letting you speak first, because after all, because you're older, you should be full of wisdom, but age does not always guarantee the speaker has wisdom. It's true. You can be old and very stupid. Continuing, verse 10, Elihu continues, Therefore I say, listen to me. I will also declare my opinion. Indeed, I waited for your words. I listened to your reasonings while you searched out what to say. I paid close attention to you, and surely not one of you convinced Job or answered his words. So apparently he's more or less accusing the three friends of having no wisdom in responses to their to Job's speeches, his justifications. More or less calling them ineffective, just like Job had. Continuing. All right, verse 13. Lest you say, we have found wisdom, God will vanquish him, not man. Now he has not directed his words against me, so I will not answer him with your words. In other words, I'm not going to repeat what you said to him, because they're useless words. 15. They are dismayed and answer no more. Words escape them. And I have waited because they did not speak. Because they stood still and answered no more. I also will answer my part. I too will declare my opinion. For I am full of words. The spirit within me compels. Indeed, my belly is like wine that has no vent. It's believed the belly is where the spirit lives. That could be why he mentioned that. But continuing, verse 20, I will speak that I may find relief. I must open my lips and answer. Let me not, I pray, show partiality to anyone, nor let me flatter any man, for I do not know how to flatter, else my Maker would soon take me away. All right. That's the end of chapter 32, and we'll end there. We'll begin in chapter 33 next time. Thank you so much again for joining us in the study of the book of Job. Until then.